Greetings, everyone. Welcome to Sabbath services. Prophecy marches on. And who knows what's going to happen over there in Europe and the Ukraine? But the thing we need to look to are the keys that God has told us to watch for. Okay? And we know that, let's come here to Daniel 11. Daniel 11. Now, this is important for us to really understand and to keep watching for, because these things will develop. Now, we don't know how quickly, or we don't know how long. Now, we know one thing for sure, that the move toward bringing all the religions into working with one another is well along the way. As I mentioned last week, and as we have covered with Chrislam. Now, what they're going to do is this. They're going to agree to all work together and yet keep their religion separate. Because even in the places like we saw where they're going to build that big building in Berlin, they're going to have a place for Christians, a place for Jews, and a place for Muslims to worship, with a common meeting hall in the middle. Now, this is similar to what they're doing in Qatar with Chrislam. Now, why is this important? Because those who are involved in bringing on the one world government are beginning to realize that they can't do it by force, and they can't do it by plague. Too much resistance from the people, and it would lead to them never being able to have control. So, in order for the prophecies to be fulfilled, they're going to have to turn to the religious leaders so they can deal with the people so it can be worked out peaceably. So this means it's not coming all of a sudden. So let's look here, Daniel 11 and verse 40. This is the key central starting point of the end time, leading right directly into the tribulation. And as we have mentioned, the last 7 years, first 3.5 are going to be peace. And this is when it looks like, with the miracles of the false prophet, with the magnetism and electrifying presence of the beast power, that it looks like the problems of the world are going to be solved by human beings. But it never lasts, because in the middle of the week, 3.5 years, something is going to happen. Maybe just prior to the 3.5 years. So let's review this and look at it again. Verse 40. At the time of the end, the king of the south shall push at him. That's the king of the north. And the king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind, with chariots, with horsemen, with many ships, and he shall enter into the countries and shall overflow and sweep through. Now, all of this is a military movement, and that's also going to take some time, even if you're transporting all of the troops and things by air. It just doesn't happen overnight. Okay? Now, first of all, he will come down to Egypt and those areas. And then after that, he shall enter into the glorious land, and many countries shall be overthrown, but these shall escape out of his hand, Edom and Moab, and the chief of the children of Ammon. Now that's the area of Jordan, and that's where Petra is. And it's very probable that the place of safety will be in Petra. But don't look for comfort. It's going to be hard. Stone. There'll be plenty of water because there's water underneath there in great quantities. So if that's the place of safety, then that will be it. Now, verse 43. And he shall have power over the treasures of gold and silver. In other words, the king of the north is going to be the one who is holding the key for the financial power of the world. And isn't it interesting? Now, you watch what's going to happen in February, because in Davos, Switzerland, all of those nations that are working for the one world government are going to meet there. And we'll see what kind of information they release to us. Okay? But there will be an economic change, and it will be controlled, undoubtedly, right out of Switzerland. So let's keep that in mind as we go forward here. Okay, verse 44. But tidings out of the east and out of the north shall alarm him, and he shall go forth with great fury to destroy and to utterly annihilate many. Now, this is going to be the beginning of the Great Tribulation, right there. So what we're looking at this, there needs to be a king of the north and a king of the south. Then along with that, the next thing that has to happen, there has to be with the king of the south and the Jews and the Muslim countries, a peace pact. And the beast power will probably guarantee to the Jews that he will give them protection militarily while they build their temple, because they are going to build their temple. We know there has to be a temple built. Okay? Let's review that again, Matthew 24, so we keep it in mind how these events take place, because there's going to be many, many false prophets bringing many ideas, saying the time is at hand, Christ is coming right away. Okay? Let's come here to verse 14. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be proclaimed in all the world for a witness to all nations, then shall the end come. Now, we don't know exactly how that's going to be. We don't know how much of that is left to the two witnesses. And then there's another factor involved, so hold your place here, because this has to come just shortly before the tribulation begins. Because there has to be a warning given. Now, we don't know what's going to happen with the mark of the beast, but let's read it here in Revelation 14. Okay? And this is called the three angels' message. Okay? Revelation 14. Now, this has to be at a time just prior to the tribulation. I don't know how this fits into what we read there in Matthew 24, the gospel being preached in all the world, but let's read it, verse 6. And another angel flying in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel to proclaim to those who dwell on the earth, and to every nation and tribe and language and people, saying with a loud voice. Okay? Now, this is an angelic message. I don't know how this is going to be done. Is it going to be directly from the angel to all of the nations as it goes around the world? I don't know. But notice, saying with a loud voice, fear God and give glory to him, because the hour of his judgment has come. Okay? So it's right before the judgment of God. And what is the judgment of God going to be? Starting with the tribulation. And worship him who made the heaven and the earth and the sea and the fountains of the waters. Okay? So that message has to go out, followed by another angel, saying, the great city Babylon is fallen, is fallen. Now, that's not just the city. The whole world is Babylon the Great, as we saw last time in Revelation 17. Okay? So this is just before the fall of Babylon. Now, it's not going to come, bang, instantly. It's going to come in sequence. Because the wine of the wrath of her fornication, which he has given to all nations to drink. Now then, notice verse 9. This has to do with the mark of the beast. So let's read it. And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if anyone worship the beast and his image, and receives the mark in his forehead or in his hand, he shall also drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is mixed undiluted in the cup of his wrath. Okay? And he shall be tormented in fire and brimstone in the sight of the angels and of the Lamb. Now, what's going to happen at this point? Do you suppose something like this might occur? So let me ring the bell. I don't know. But look at the reports that we have of how many people are freely receiving the chip in their hand and think it's a wonderful thing. Okay. Could it be when this warning message goes out that there will be people cutting out that chip out of their hand? I don't know. Because the warning message is going to be, you're going to suffer torment. So that's why I rang the bell. But we also know this. Let's look at verse 12. Here are the saints. Here's the patient of the saints. Here are the ones who keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus Christ. Okay. Now notice verse 13. Okay. And I heard a voice from heaven cry to me, write, blessed are the dead who die in the Lord from this time forward, yea, says the Spirit, so that they may rest from their labors and their works follow them. Okay? Now, this has to be right at the beginning of the tribulation, maybe a little while into it. So come back here to Revelation 6. But there has to be that warning given. Okay? Revelation 6. Now, as we have seen with the opening the seals, the first seal is open, and that leads to all of the religions getting together that may be ready to be opened. Okay? I've thought about that a lot in the past. And I've said in the past, because of all of the movement by the Pope toward the Muslims, that may be a start of it, but there has to be background work up to the point to bring it all together. Then we come to verse 3. Now this is when the tribulation begins. So we have that back there in Matthew 24. We'll go back and see that. Okay. Verse 3. And when he opened the second seal, I heard the second living creature say, "Come and see." And another horse went out that was red, and power was given to the one sitting on it to take peace from the earth, and to cause them to kill one another, and a great sword was given to him. Okay? Then we follow. When you have war, what's the first thing? The next seal, that is the black horse, and there was death, rationing of food. Verse 6, he opened the fourth seal, and there was the pale horse, and now death really spreads in tremendous wave over the whole earth. Okay? Open the fifth seal. Now tie this in with Revelation 14, where it says, "Blessed are the dead who die in Christ." Okay? Here it is, right here. He opened the fifth seal, and I saw the souls of those who had been slain for the word of God and for the testimony that they held. And they cried out with a loud voice, saying, "How long, O Lord, holy and true, do you not judge and avenge our blood on the earth?" White robes were given to each of them, and they were told that they should rest a short time yet, not time for the resurrection, until it be fulfilled that both their fellow servants and their brethren also would be killed as they had been. So when it says back there in Revelation 14, "Blessed are those who die," okay, that's where it is fulfilled. Now, how far into the tribulation period that is, we don't know. Okay? So back here to Revelation 14 and verse 13. And I heard a voice from heaven say to me, "Write, blessed are the dead who die in Christ from this time forward, yea, says the Spirit, so they may rest from their labors, and their works follow them." So, how does this tie in with all of the preaching of the gospel? Okay. Well, let's come back to Matthew 24. You know that when the tribulation begins, there's going to be hardly anyone who will be able to get out and be able to do a lot of preaching and people being converted and baptized. Okay. So back here in Matthew 24. Okay. Now, verse 15. Therefore, when you shall see the abomination of desolation, which was spoken of by Daniel the prophet, standing in the holy place, the one who reads, let him understand. So that's what we've been doing. We've been reading. Okay. Now remember, John had to add this as the New Testament was being canonized, because Jesus didn't say those words. Okay. Now notice, as you're looking at Jerusalem and Judea, okay, In order for the abomination of desolation to take place, there has to be a temple. There has to be a holy place. There has to be the one who goes in there and proclaims himself to be God. Okay? And that kicks off the tribulation. Let's come back here to 2 Thessalonians and see what Paul wrote. Now, this is interesting because Paul wrote 2 Thessalonians and 1 Thessalonians, the first two epistles that he wrote. Okay? This is going to be something, and this will be the beast power, the leader, the man. It will not be the Pope. Okay? So let's read it here. 2 Thessalonians 2, verse 3. Do not let anyone deceive you by any means, because that day will not come unless the apostasy shall come first. Now that's the whole rebellious system of the beast and the false prophet and the whole world government and the whole world religion. That is the apostasy it's talking about here. Come first. And the man of sin shall be revealed, the son of perdition, the one who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God. Now, isn't it interesting? Not many people realize it, but the Jews are not looking for God to come to the earth. They're certainly not looking for Jesus to return to the earth. In fact, when anyone asks a Jew about, well, what is the Messiah going to be like? Will he be a man or will he be from heaven? And they always say, a man. So we'll have to wait and see how that works out. See? Now, all of those will be big signs, tremendous events that we can see. It's not going to be done in a closet. It's not going to be done instantly, but it will be done in God's timing. Okay? So here's what he does. Now, John knew that when he was writing the book of Revelation and it was talking about the two witnesses and measuring the temple, he knew that there was no temple in Jerusalem because it was destroyed in 70 AD. And just like Jesus said, not one stone was left upon another. Okay? So in order for this to be fulfilled, they've got to build the temple. And here's the desolation. And this is the key signature moment which then kicks off the last 3.5-year tribulation. Okay? So let's read it here and we'll go back to Matthew 24. Okay? The one who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God. Now think about that. Greater, more charismatic than Adolf Hitler, but with the same effect on people. I don't know how many of you have watched those historical accounts of Hitler and his speaking and everything is just wild-eyed and just cheering and tears flowing and, Sieg Heil, Sieg Heil, okay, and all of that. We'll just multiply that probably 2 or 3 or 4 times with the beast. And there will be a lot of demons there because they will be thinking this is their chance to really take over the world. Okay? So they're going to stir up the people. So what we're looking at are gigantic events that will affect the whole world. Okay? Exalts himself above all that is called God. Now, if you think Hitler was arrogant, he was nothing compared to this. Or that is an object of worship. Now, what are we told in Revelation 13? What is everyone supposed to do for the beast? Make an image for the beast. And you can just see how this will go. They will make images. They'll put them on T-shirts. They'll put them on hats. It'll be everywhere because he will be the Savior of the world for a very short time. Okay? I think of that every time I see them making these T-shirts, how quickly they can make them. Okay? Or object of worship, so that he comes into the temple of God. And that temple will be called the temple of God. And sits down as God. That is in the Holy of Holies. Proclaiming that he himself is God. Now, nothing has ever taken place like that yet. But this is going to be a tremendous event. Then he says he told him about it, so forth. Now, verse 6. Now you understand what is holding him back in order for him to be revealed in his own set time. Because that was a long way off from when he wrote this. Okay? And this was written before John wrote the book of Revelation. So this is why you have to put them together. Even the mystery of lawlessness is already working, only there is one who is restraining at the present time until it arises out of the midst. And then the lawless one will be revealed. Now notice what tells us this will be at the time of the end and the return of Christ. This next phrase. Whom the Lord will consume with the breath of his mouth and will destroy with the brightness of his coming. Revelation 19. Okay. And we know the beast and false prophet will be thrown into the lake of fire. But notice, even the one whose coming is according to the inner working of Satan with all power and signs and lying wonders. Now remember this, how deceitful this is going to be, because if you see it, you believe it, right? And the world's going to believe it. And whoever Christians are there, they're going to say, no, this is not of God. And they will come and get you and martyr you. It will be quite an event that's going to happen, okay? Whose coming is according to the inner working of Satan with all power, signs, and lying wonders. Now this means he's going to be doing many miraculous things. And the beast and the false prophet will be partners. They will travel together so that these signs and wonders can be given as evidence that this is from God. Okay? Now, so that's what it kicks off the tribulation. Back to Matthew 24. Okay? So come down here to verse 21. For then, now that goes back to verse 15, when the abomination of desolation takes place. For then shall there be great tribulation, such as has not been from the beginning of the world until this time, nor ever shall be again. Now that's something. So if you think it's difficult now, And if you think there are problems we're looking at now that are overwhelming, we haven't seen anything yet. And this is why we need to really stay strong with God. Okay? Now notice how bad it's going to get. Because when this happens then, you look at the rest of Revelation. Revelation 6, Revelation 8, Revelation 9, Revelation 10. Okay? All of those things. Great and horrible wars. Okay? Notice, such as has not been from the beginning of the world until that time, shall ever be again. And if those days were not limited. Now that's what it means. King James says, cut short. And many preachers get up there and say, well, you better hurry up and get right with God because he may cut the time short. No, it means he has limited it. What is the limit? 3.5 years. Okay. So we have the 7, 3.5 piece, and we have 3.5, all the last events. Okay. Limited, there should no flesh be saved, which tells you what kind of destruction is going to take place. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be limited. Okay? Then he talks about false prophets and all of that. So we have the king of the north, king of the south. Okay? Then we have to have the temple of the Jews, number 3. Number 4, 2 witnesses have to come on the scene. And here's what I promised to bring some time ago. There has to be a final Elijah who is yet to come. How is that? Okay. Well, we know that John the Baptist was prophesied to come in the spirit and power of Elijah. All right? Let's look here, 2 scriptures. Let's come to Isaiah 40 and verse 3. Now, this is what John the Baptist said he was, because the scribes and Pharisees came to him, and remember, he was the son of a priest. And so they came to John the Baptist when he was baptizing, and they said, who are you? Are you the Christ? No, I'm not the Christ. Are you the prophet? Now that's another whole sermon in itself. He said, no. Well, then who are you? Well, he quoted Isaiah 40, verse 3. A voice is calling in the wilderness. Where did John the Baptist start his ministry? Okay. Across the Jordan, where the wilderness began. Okay. Prepare the way of the Lord, make straight in the desert a highway for our God. Now then, look at what happens. The next verse. Because this didn't happen when John the Baptist was on the earth. So lots of times you see this, especially in Isaiah, it talks about a prophecy at this point, then immediately in the next verse goes ahead to something way separated, far apart from it. Now notice, this didn't happen when John the Baptist was preaching, preparing the way for Jesus. Every valley shall be exalted, every mountain and hill shall be made low, the crooked places shall be made straight, and the rough places plain, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed. So it goes from John the Baptist, boom, straight to the second coming of Christ. Because prophecy is here a little, there a little, line upon line, precept upon precept. You have to put it together. And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together, for the mouth of the Lord has spoken. Okay? So, John the Baptist. Now, let's come back to Malachi, the 3rd chapter. There we go. Malachi 3, and hold your place there because we'll be back to Malachi 4 in a little bit. Malachi 3, verse 1. Behold, I will send my messenger, and he shall prepare the way before me. And the Lord said, whom you seek shall suddenly come to his temple. Now we'll look in just a minute and see when he suddenly came to his temple. And that was quite an event. See? Even the messenger of the covenant in whom you delight. Behold, he comes, says the Lord of hosts. Okay? Now notice again what happened. Immediately, it goes into the second coming of Christ. Verse 1 refers to his first coming and John the Baptist. Verse 2, let's read it. But who can endure the day of his coming, and who shall stand when he appears? For he is like a refiner's fire, and like a fuller's soap. And he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver, and shall purify the sons of Levi, purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto the Lord an offering in righteousness. Okay. Now, let's come back here. Let's come back here to Matthew 17, beginning in verse 1. And this is where a lot of people think that this tells you that you go to heaven. But it's not. Okay? Verse 1, and after 6 days Jesus took with him Peter, James, and his brother John, and brought them up into a high mountain by themselves. Apart from anyone else, no one could look down on them, and they couldn't look up and see what went on. And he was transfigured before them. Now, exactly what that means, I don't know. But let's read on. And his face shined as the sun. Now, that's interesting, isn't it? What does it say that our faces will be like who are in the first resurrection? Jesus said, they shall shine like the sun. Okay? What does Jesus look like in Revelation, the 1st chapter? His face is like the sun shining in its full power. Okay? And his garments became white like light. Then there appeared to them Moses and Elijah talking with him. Now, we'll see in just a little bit that this was a vision. Now, question, is the top of the mountain heaven? No. Did it say they ascended to heaven? No. Okay. Now, it says it's a vision. We'll see that in a little bit. And there appeared to them Moses and Elijah talking with him. Then Peter answered and said to Jesus, Lord, it is good for us to be here. If you desire, let us make 3 tabernacles here, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. Okay? Now, isn't that the way that people are? They want to do something for God. See? And when something happens, they want to make it their thing. So this is what Peter was doing. Now, and while he was speaking, a bright cloud suddenly overshadowed them, and behold, a voice out of the cloud said, This is my Son, the beloved, in whom I have delight listened to him. And when the disciples heard it, they fell on their faces in extreme terror. But Jesus came and touched them and said, "Arise, do not be terrified." Poof! The vision was gone. Okay. And when they looked up, they saw no one except Jesus alone. Now, when they were descending from the mountain, Jesus commanded them, saying, "Tell the vision to no one." He didn't say, "Now you were up in heaven for a little while, and all of the souls of everybody is there, and there is Moses and Elijah." Well, it was a vision. Okay? Just for the express purpose of showing to Peter, James, and John that he indeed was the Messiah of God. Now, when you read Peter in his epistle, and you read John in his epistles, they both talk about this very event. Okay? Then his disciples asked him, "Why then do the scribes say that Elijah must come first?" Now look at his answer. And Jesus answered and said to them, "Elijah shall indeed come first and restore all things." Now wait a minute. Look at the next sentence. "But I tell you that Elijah has already come, and they did not recognize him, but they did to him whatever they desired. In like manner, also the Son of Man shall suffer from them." Okay? Now, when Jesus said this, John the Baptist was already dead. Okay? So let's read on here. Verse 13, then the disciples understood that he was speaking to them about John the Baptist. But why did he say, up here in verse 11, Elijah shall indeed come first? Well, time to take a break. We'll come back and we'll answer that question.